Observation is defined as the action of observing something or someone carefully in order to gain information. When we are young children, this is our primary means of learning. We acquire data through our senses and then mentally process that data. This involves not only noticing an object or event, but filtering it through our senses and then our mind, partly consciously and partly subconsciously. What is observed becomes significant in the mind of the observer if the information relates to future survival or is relevant to a past event. On occasion, new information is processed that may assist the observer in developing a new conclusion or outcome. Most often, the future survival and past relevant experience become the two ways in which the mind files information away for later retrieval. However, the mind can be trained to observe new outcomes in order to create them. The way you train your mind is the way you create and experience reality. Research in quantum mechanics has proven that the act of observing reality creates it, and psychologists have known and demonstrated this for years. Think of the way in which an ink blot image has many possible interpretations. Each observer will personally experience what their mind most relates to when viewing one of these images, and this is a direct example of how we each perceive and experience individual reality. We can use observation to our great advantage by aligning ourselves with the things we choose to give the most attention to. The trained observer can intentionally search for specific things that his mental training has taught him are significant and useful for a new outcome that is desired. This is a method of observation for deliberate creation through the law of attraction. But because we observe so many things in a day, we can often miss the details that might align us with those things that we want. There are infinitely more choices available than what we often hastily observe. Once we understand this, we can set the intention to begin seeing and observing more than we have in the past. And this opens us up to a world of possibilities that are available and just waiting to be noticed. To become an accomplished and intentional observer, try the following processes. You can pick one or all of them to try for the next 30 days. These tools will begin training your brain to observe a new reality. Number 1. Grab a piece of paper. Choose a room in your home, office, or any other place that you're familiar with. Begin listing all of the things that you know are in this room without looking at it. Take your time to list every object that you can think of. After you've completed your list, take a look at this room and compare it to your list to see how accurate you were. You may be surprised by how many items you see every day that didn't make it on your list. As you do this process on a regular basis, you are training your mind to become more observant of your surroundings. Exercise number 2. Close your eyes and visualize some place that you know well. Describe this place mentally to yourself as if you're describing it to a friend who has never seen it. Know every detail in this scene and give a very vivid account. Now pick one thing that you choose to manifest and place it inside of this scene. Take your time to see this manifestation as being in the scene you've chosen. Once again, begin describing this thing in as much detail as possible. Pretend you are telling a friend about this manifestation that has arrived in your familiar surroundings, and you want that friend to experience the excitement and imagery as much as you are. You want this friend to perceive the experience in the way that you do, so the more detail you give them, the more they can experience what you are seeing and feeling. This process will connect your manifestations with something that your brain already knows is familiar, as well as add sensory-rich detail to the visualization. Not only does it enhance your observation abilities, but it is also a dynamically powerful manifestation tool. Exercise number 3. Close your eyes and take a few moments to imagine a random person in your mind. This could be someone you know or not. Simply work with what your mind chooses for you. Next, decide to deliberately clothe this individual in one distinct article of clothing. It could be a red hat, a green coat, a gray sweater, or whatever you choose for it to be. Simply choose the item and the color and take a few moments to visualize this person wearing that item. The next step of this process is to observe how many times you see someone wearing this item the next time you are out and about. You can take a mental note of this or write it down in a notebook. If you don't see anyone wearing this article of clothing at first, continue to visualize it for a few moments each day until you do. With this exercise, you can move up in the scale of the way you observe by changing the article of clothing to something else after you've observed it, or by adding a second item of clothing that must go with the first for your next observation. The more you do this, the more your mind will prove to you that it will search for and find the things you adamantly tell it to observe. If you don't ask your mind to practice observation enough, it will generally just replay what it has been observing over the course of time without much variation. In other words, it won't open itself up to observe much of anything that is new. It may miss the finer details, or those things that are actually in complete alignment with what you're choosing to manifest. Training the mind to observe works in the same manner as any other training. At first, we consciously practice the art of observation to master it, and then the subconscious will take over and make it automatic, as it does with all habits that it develops. Through intentional observation, we are able to open our minds and our reality to a whole new experience.